All right, well, welcome everyone. We're so excited that everyone's joining us today for our resources for New Mexico caregivers and parts of Arizona. Also, we know several of you folks are probably joining us from the Navajo Nation on the Arizona side. So welcome, thank you for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. We're really excited to be putting this on. We're very thankful that we have gone in touch with 3 additional organizations that are joining us today to be able to share their resources and what their organizations do and can provide to family caregivers throughout the state of New Mexico. So, well, before I do that, just a quick introduction of who we are. My name is Dana Howarth. I'm the Deputy Director of the New Mexico Caregivers Coalition. I also have here with me Bridget Cobb, if you wanted to say hi real fast.
Hey everyone, really glad you could make it to this training. It's going to be good.
Thank you. So the New Mexico Caregivers Coalition is a small nonprofit located in Bernalillo, New Mexico. We offer training and resources to family caregivers and paid professional home care workers throughout the state of New Mexico. We also have a partnership with Valerie Sosi of the Sotso Foundation. Valerie, if you want to say hi real fast.
Hi everybody. I hope that the weather is good in your area because it's been crazy windy. Just some reminders, please put your name in the chat if your name is different so we can count you for attendance today. And to all of our presenters as well, and so glad to be here. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Yeah, just to reiterate what Valerie said, some quick Zoom housekeeping. If you don't have your name showing on the screen, if you can please put it in the chat, or if Valerie Sosi is the person that helped you register for today's class, we can also let her know you're here. That way we can make sure everyone gets credit for being in attendance. We do ask that you stay on mute during the session. It helps kind of minimize background noise for the recording. However, there will be sections after each presenter's presentation to do little Q&A. So if you have questions, you're either welcome to use the raise your hand feature of the Zoom app, or you can put them in the chat, whichever you're most comfortable with. There will also be a second group Q&A at the end of the session where you can ask any questions to any of today's presenters. That's what this session's for, so that you can hear from them, but also maybe get any questions you may have answered. So just a quick review of the session. We do have 3 organizations here represented. You're going to hear from the Native American Disability Law Center, Alzheimer's Association, the New Mexico chapter, and also PeopleWorks New Mexico. So without further ado, the first on today's agenda is the Native American Disability Law Center.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I'd better press the right button this time. Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day. My name is Valerie Johnson, and I am with the Native American Disability Law Center. We are located here in Farmington, New Mexico, and we assist, we are a nonprofit organization, and we assist Native Americans with disabilities. And if that disability has a legal issue pertaining to their disability, we try to, seek to assist them. Right now, all the attorneys are working still remotely. We do have a few staff members here at the office. We assist by phone, by our email. So, and at the moment, we are working with a project with the National Council on Aging, where we are reaching out to people who are 65 and over, or if they're 21 and over with a disability. And we are working with the National Council on Aging, where we are trying to reach out to as many people as we can to let them know that there may be benefits out there that, you know, not a lot of people may not be aware of that's out there. And what we do is we do a little screening over, you know, we do a little application, we enter their information in, and a report will generate. And that report will list all the benefits that they may be eligible for. All the information that we receive is all confidential. We do not share the information with anybody else, and there is no cost. And what I do is I generate that report and I mail it. I mail that report to the applicant, and it will have like a brief description of the benefit. It will have the name of the benefit, and it will and but that's what we are working with here at the Native American Disability Law Center. And I just appreciate the time that you are allowing me to present this. And if you have any questions, we do have a toll-free number. Our website is on the our website is on there, and also all the information. But that's what that is the information that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Valerie. Is there any questions for Valerie Johnson of the Native American Disability Law Center?
Are your services, do you have to pay for your services?
Oh, in regards to the law center, no, we do everything. What we do is we do an intake. Like say, for instance, if somebody calls, we take the phone call, we do an intake. With that intake, with the information, we sent it out to the attorneys, staff, and they review the information. But no, there is no cost, no fee. Hey, Val.
Hi. And do you have to be on Navajo or in Farmington to access your services?
Most of our service area is in Arizona, New Mexico, part of Utah, and Colorado. And they do have to have a disability. But in regards to the National Council on Aging, it's either 65 and over, or if they're 21 and over with a disability. And with the Native American Disability Law Center, they do have to have a disability.
So being that you guys are a law center, do you have to handle do you guys do like probate and like those type of legal services?
Well, it depends. Actually, they call in and they do the intake. It depends on what kind of services that they're looking for. But no, most of the time we have to refer, like in probate cases, we refer them out. And I know at one point our office did assist with Social Security, because we do get a lot of calls about Social Security, and we refer them out. We refer them like two or three attorneys that we know of.
Do you guys speak Navajo or is it all English?
We do have, you know, Benita McCary, she is so fluent in Navajo. She's always like there helping. If we do have a all Navajo speaker, she does come on board and she can assist.
Okay, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
I dropped the website for the Native American Disability Law Center and their toll-free number in the chat for anyone that might be interested in writing that down.
Thank you, Dana.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Any other questions from the audience for the Native American Disability Law Center?
Like Ariana Coho might have a question. She has her hand up in the chat. Ariana?
She may have just been saying hi for attendance.
Okay.
Well, if there are no other questions at this moment, if you have any additional questions that come into your head as you think on it throughout the rest of the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat and then we can come back to them at the end of the session for the Q&A at the end. Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome.
Up next, we have the Alzheimer's Association, the New Mexico chapter.
Thank you, Dana. Hello, everyone. My name is Ron Epps, and I am the program director for the New Mexico chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. We help families that are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, and especially the family caregivers to be able to navigate the disease in as joyous and helpful way as possible. We actually have 5 offices in New Mexico. So we are located in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Roswell, Las Cruces, and Farmington. But we do help families all over the state. And so we cover the entire state. I'm actually going to talk about 3 of the things that we provide. And then my partner, Craig Coleman, is going to talk about some of the rest. So we're going to kind of tag team on you this morning or today. I'm going to put in the chat line one of the first things that we have, which is we have a 24-hour helpline. So that number is there. It's available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So whenever you have questions about caregiving, about the disease, you can call that number. You'll get master's level clinicians to be able to help you. And they do speak multiple languages. Although I don't think Navajo, Valerie. Valerie's trying her best to teach me Navajo. And Valerie and I actually have started a support group for Navajo. And so that is a dual language English Navajo support group that we just started this past week. And so we do have those kind of support things. But that 800 number is a great resource, especially for caregivers. You can't sleep in the middle of the night because something's going on. You can call that 800 number because it's so important for caregivers to watch out for their own care. It's a little bit like flying on an airplane. When they talk at the airplane and they say, hey, if the cabin loses pressure, the oxygen mask is going to fly or fall down from the ceiling, put your own mask on first and then the person you're traveling with. Because that's the best way to do it, because you have to make sure you're in shape to care for the people that you're traveling with. It's the same way. As a caregiver for someone with Alzheimer's dementia, make sure you're taking care of yourself, because you're going to provide the best care possible for that person if you are taken care of, if you are in your best health, if you are in your best mood. And so we have to make sure you take care of yourself. One other thing we offer is we offer care consultations. And so those could be in person, or it could be over the phone or over Zoom, where we can do personal conversations to talk about your specific situation. And we can help give guidance and help you with information for your personal information. And so you can call that 800 number to set one up, or you can call any of the local offices to do that as well. The third thing I'm going to talk about is we have something called respite care. So as a family caregiver, often you're on call basically 24 hours a day with your loved one. And you can just kind of get burned out, or you may need to go to doctor's visits yourself, or you may just need to go get a little time away for yourself, go visit with friends, that kind of thing. So what you can do is hire a caregiver to come and watch your loved one, and then we will reimburse you for the expense that you hire that person. And so you can call us again to get more information about that respite care. Right now, I think the dollar amount that you can get is $780 reimbursed per year. The state actually controls that dollar amount, so it differs based on what the state tells us we can do. But it's an easy thing to do. The only requirement is that the person has to have a diagnosis. So they've had to have a doctor diagnose them with Alzheimer's or dementia. And the person providing the care cannot be someone who already lives in the home. In other words, it could be a family member that doesn't live in the home that you could actually pay, and then we would reimburse you for that expense. Craig, why don't you take some time to talk about our programs and support groups?
Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to speak. It's an honor. As Ron says, being a caregiver is hard work, and nobody on this call needs me to tell you that. But we have education classes. They have been running all virtual for the last 2 years since the pandemic started. But we feel like knowledge is power, and knowing not only where you've been with the disease and being a caregiver, but giving you strategies on where you're going. We have a number of classes. They range anywhere from effective communications, helping people do a better job of communicating with the person with dementia. We have a managing money class, which is new. It's been revamped, and everyone that has taken it has just said it is absolutely valuable. We have longer classes that are called Living with Alzheimer's for Caregivers, early, middle, and late stage. And these run 2 to 2.5 hours, but they're very comprehensive as far as not only what to expect, but to help you know best how to take care of yourself. As Ron says so well, I mean, you're not going to be a good caregiver if you're not really focusing on taking care of yourself as you caregive. And along those lines, we have a number of support groups throughout the state. Well, actually, that's the goal, to roll them out throughout the state. But they were all virtual up until 3 months ago. But we've now gone to a model where we have a few in-person classes, particularly in the Albuquerque area. But Valerie's group will stay virtual. There will probably be Navajo people, joining Ron and Valerie's group from all over the country. And we have support groups with multiple people from out of state. So I'm not gonna say anything bad about any of our other Alzheimer's Association chapters throughout the country, but we have such good facilitators that people come to us from all over the country to take part in these support groups. And these support groups are, there's a variety of different kinds. We have support groups for adult children taken care of, people that have a loved one residing in long-term care facilities. Ron hosts a husbands group. We have an extremely popular wives group. And we have an early stage group, which we encourage both people living with and their caregivers to be a part of that. And we actually just rolled out a new early stage group that's going to be meeting in person in Albuquerque. So I'm going to share my contact information with everyone, because I very much would appreciate the opportunity to send out information about both our classes, the details of when they are, when you can join via Zoom link, and also our support groups, laying out in some pretty good detail, what they're all about. But I also would say, please call me or email me, because I work closely with the facilitators and can usually guide people pretty well into the support group where they'll get the most comfort and knowledge of both, again, not only what they've been through, but what to expect. And one final little positive note I want to say about these groups is several of them have members where their loved ones have passed away, but they continue to take part in these support groups as a way to sort of give back, because they were so valuable to the members while they were doing it. So that's pretty much my spiel for the support groups in education. Please, reach out to me and let me know if there's any questions, anything that we can do at all for anyone on the call.
Yeah, thank you again, everyone, for letting us be here. We're here to help caregivers. That's what we are. Craig and I, actually, both of us, it was our moms that had the disease. And so we understand as family caregivers what you're going through. What are your questions? What can we help you with?
We didn't do that good of a job, Ron.
No, we didn't.
Got to be a question or two.
Val, you're on mute. If you were trying to ask a question.
I was saying that I know you guys are virtual and you're online, and then anybody can come to your class, and you have a variety of classes. Ariana, is that a question?
Nope, she says she has none in the chat.
Okay, that's.
And we are going to in person, as Craig said, some of our support groups are now in person. We still have a lot that are virtual or on Zoom as well. We have a Zoom class schedule, but we're also beginning to do in-person classes in all 5 areas. And you can call and request. You can say, hey, we'd like you to come to our, I actually just had a call from a lady said, can you come to a class at our church? And so I'm setting that up to come to a class at her church. And so we can do those in-person classes at request as well. Valerie, you know that because you request classes together. So Valerie and I do some classes together as well. And so you can request those, and those could be in person or virtual as well. So we'll come to you. Yes, they are provided all over the state, Michelle. So appreciate that question. Yes, we can do that.
Do you give CEUs, Ron?
Where there are some classes that can be CEUs. It takes us a little longer to schedule those because neither Craig or I are certified for those. But we do have, actually, she's in my office, in the Albuquerque office today. So we have a regional manager that can do those CEU. Asking about Savvy Caregiver. We don't do Savvy Caregiver anymore. It's actually now we've got an updated version of that class that we call Living with Alzheimer's for Caregivers. So that's the classes, Craig, we're talking about, that the early stage class lasts 2.5 to 3 hours. The middle stage class lasts 2.5 to 3 hours. And the late stage class usually lasts 2 to 2.5 hours. Although I just taught it last week, Craig, and almost turned it into 3 hours, didn't I?
You have a lot of good stories to tell, and they're awesome.
And I really recommend those Living with classes. They're very in-depth. They really give you strategies to deal with communication, to deal with behaviors, to be prepared for situations that are going to come up, and have a lot of examples as they go through.
So if I'm having problems with my mom and she's really mean, I can come there and get some tips from you to help me not get beat up, I guess.
Yes,
I don't know the right word.
Yes, we can. Yeah, we use the word aggressive. About 40% of people with dementia get aggressive. But yes, because a lot of times there are things that are triggering events. And so we can talk about how to avoid those triggers or do other things. We talk about strategies to, hey, when someone's starting to feel nervous, or they're starting to get very, you can see the emotion kind of building up, how you can kind of vent that, and things we can do. So we do have strategies in dealing with those kind of things and how to deal with those triggers. Let's see, somebody said, do we have any upcoming classes in Las Cruces? I don't have anything scheduled right now, Michelle, but I was actually just in Las Cruces this morning. So I was in there yesterday and this morning and taught a class yesterday, but I don't have anything scheduled, but we will be scheduling some things in Las Cruces. So please look for that on our website, or you can send me your, send me a note. I put my email in the chat. Send me a note and ask me to send it to you once we get one scheduled.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to ask, I'm pretty sure, like, if I'm in the late stage of caring for my person and I'm looking for a memory care center, like where can I, what is the next steps, because it's getting too much for me? Are you able to help me with that?
Yes. I would really recommend the 800 number is a great resource for that. We can help as well here locally, so you can ask us locally. So either one will work. But we also have on our website, we have something called the Community Resource Finder, where if you would prefer just to look through it yourself, you can look through that Community Resource Finder and get more information there. But yes, we can help you identify facilities that are possible for you.
Okay. And that 24 hotline is not just for resources, but like if I was just having a bad day and I need to talk to somebody about what just happened, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and everything we do is free. And that is why I recommend that 24-hour line, Valerie, is, I can remember when I would have sleepless nights because I was worried about things that was going on with my mom. And like you said, just kind of, the anxiety that my mom is showing, I'm actually starting to feel myself. And so to be able to just call somebody and talk over the situation and find out, am I doing the right things? Did I say the right thing? Is there other things I should do when mom's getting mean? Or for my mom, it was actually repeating herself. When she repeats herself over and over and over again and tells me the same story, what should I do? What can I do? It's driving me crazy. And to be able to have a conversation with someone to find out, hey, here are things you can try. And yes, it's normal for someone with dementia to repeat themselves. It's normal for them to make up stories. What is normal, what isn't. To have that kind of information is really helpful.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. And Craig, you guys are amazing. So for all the people that normally come to class, you know that we've been working with the Alzheimer's Association. I'm glad that they came here today to talk a little bit more about it. And don't forget that 1-800 number. I think that is the most amazing resource. If you can't get a hold of Ron or Craig, for whatever reason, or maybe it's at 3 a.m, you can call that 1-800 number and you can get the help that you need for your person. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. First off, I just have to make a comment that I've seen Valerie Sosi's Alzheimer's Association commercial on TV several times, and I think it is a great commercial. So great job, Valerie.
And if you didn't know, that's been shared with like the entire association. So that's actually gone across the United States, that commercial.
That's amazing.
Dana, I just have a question.
Of course.
I got on a little bit late, but what are things that we can do and work on with our parents that do have those signs of dementia that like repeat themselves, or sometimes they know that they're doing it and themselves, they kind of like catch themselves when they do that. Is there anything that we can work on or suggest that they do?
Valerie actually put it in the chat. Probably the number one thing, Michelle, would be to go get a diagnosis. And so that can be from a primary care physician. A better solution would be if you can go to a gerontologist or a neurologist to get that, because you're more likely to get a diagnosis from them. A lot of primary care physicians aren't comfortable making that diagnosis. If you're having difficulty finding a doctor, whether a neurologist or a gerontologist, please reach out. We have connections that we can help you find doctors and physicians that can do that. We know we're in New Mexico, so there's not a lot of gerontologists, not a lot of neurologists. So that means it can be a long waiting time before you get in to see someone. But we can help sometimes with that as well. So please do reach out for that. But that would be the number one thing. We do have a class called the 10 Warning Signs of Alzheimer's and Dementia. We do that regularly virtually. And so if you'd want to just take that class to kind of look at it, that could be also a way to kind of give an idea of, hey, yeah, these are the things I'm seeing.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yes, Dana, we do the respite grants that I think I mentioned respite care. And so, if you need respite as a family caregiver and you just want to hire someone to watch, we will reimburse you for that expense. And you can contact us for more information on that as well.
Thank you. I must have missed you mentioning that. We regularly at the coalition, if people call us asking about something, about needing respite or needing some money to help care to take a break, we often refer them to the Alzheimer's Association. So we're very thankful that the Alzheimer's Association offers that to folks.
And thank you for making that recommendation. We appreciate that.
Any other questions for the Alzheimer's Association?
Do you guys have a walk that's coming up?
We do, Valerie. We actually have 7 walks across the state. And those walks are mostly in September and October. I don't actually manage the walk, so I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but they're on our website. So alz.org/New Mexico. And you can see our walks. And the walks really help us do fundraising. It helps us do things free because everything we offer as far as for caregivers is free. It also helps us raise money for research. The research piece isn't really for caregivers, but our vision as an organization is a world without Alzheimer's and dementia. Part of what we're doing is working to put ourselves out of business. Because what we would like to see is that there's no more worry about Alzheimer's and dementia because there's a cure.
That's great. Thank you so much. And if anyone else has any additional questions, feel free. Oh, there's a question in the chat.
So what is needed for more awareness in Navajo? What do people need to do to get more information, awareness, diagnosis, help? And in some ways, this question actually might be more for you, Valerie, than for me. But Valerie and I have been working together to create more awareness. We've done some radio commercials. We've done classes. We've done community forums. And so we are working together to try and create that. And Amanda, to be honest, if you have ideas or thoughts of how we can be better, do that better, I would love to work with you and talk with you about that. I'm also working with the Aging Long-Term Services on Navajo Nation and working with the Arizona chapters of, the Arizona chapter of Alzheimer's Association, the Utah chapter as well, to try and bring more awareness and help where we can. So please reach out and let me know what I can do to help. You're asking about demographics for Navajo population. I'm not sure what demographics you're asking for. One of the things we do know is that in general, studies show that American Indians and Alaska Native populations probably get Alzheimer's dementia at 3 times the rate of white Americans. And so it is a significant issue in the American Indian populations. And it's definitely something we're trying to work on. What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Real quick, Alzheimer's actually is the most common type of dementia. Dementia is the umbrella term. And Alzheimer's is that most common type. So there's other types of dementia like frontal temporal dementia or vascular dementia, but Alzheimer's is up to 80% of dementia. So in some ways we use the terms interchangeably, kind of like we ask for a Kleenex, even though we can see that it's a Walmart brand, we still say a Kleenex, and Craig still hands me the Kleenex, even though it's not officially a Kleenex, right? It's Walmart brand facial tissue. So that's kind of the same thing with Alzheimer's and dementia. Alzheimer's is just the most common type of dementia. And Valerie notes in the chat that early diagnosis is really important when dealing with this disease, and it is. This is the 6th leading cause of death by disease in the United States. Over 6 million Americans have the disease. And so it's very important to get that diagnosis because we can really help. Culturally, I've heard about this like diabetes. Has it been more a recent plague? Amanda, that's a great question. And I don't think I would say it's a more recent plague. We do know that the older you get, it's actually a risk factor. Age is a risk factor. And so since we live longer now than we did 40 years ago, that means the risk has gone up. But I also think it's just that we're more aware of that. 30, 40 years ago, we used the word senile or somebody's getting senile or senility. We don't really use that word anymore. Now we actually realize, hey, it's a disease, it's dementia, it's Alzheimer's. And for a lot of populations, they used to think that this was just a normal part of aging, right? A normal part of aging is you lose your mind and you forget things and you start, talking crazy. Well, that's not a normal part of aging. It's actually a disease, and it's called dementia Alzheimer's. And so I think rather than a plague, I think it's more that we now have more understanding about what's going on than we did just even 10, 20 years ago. Those are great questions, by the way. Thank you for asking those. And Dana, thank you for being patient with us.
No worries. I would rather folks have an opportunity to get any questions that they have and have them get their answers. So no worries.
So Rosalinda, are there pills? I think what you're asking, is there medication to help with Alzheimer's dementia? There is no medication that actually has that. There's no cure. So there is no cure for Alzheimer's dementia. Most of the medications that are available actually help with the symptoms. And so they can help with some of the recent memory issues or things like that, but they don't necessarily have an impact on the disease. So they don't slow down the disease. There's a fairly recent medication, and I'm not a doctor, so you really shouldn't be asking me medication things, but there's a recent medication that may have an impact on the disease. It is not a cure, but it might slow down the progression of the disease. And really, I would recommend talking to a doctor about that. But for the most part, there's really not a medication that has an impact on the disease. My client's left arm is starting to tremble. Is that an early sign of Alzheimer or dementia? That could be a sign of Parkinson's, and officially Parkinson's is a type of dementia because it is a brain disease. And so it can have an impact on that. The Indian hospitals have majority of our people's information regarding health. I wonder, when was the first awareness of this for our people? Well, Amanda, that is a loaded question, especially asking a white man that question. But it's a very good question. And I think the first awareness is actually fairly recent. And part of that is because for a lot of American Indians, they did not have a very long lifespan until fairly recent in history. And so American Indians, and in a lot of ways African Americans and Hispanic Americans, because their lifespans were shorter, they didn't see this as often because they were dying before that. Valerie has a class that's coming up, and she's doing it in partnership with us, the Alzheimer's Association, on June 23rd. It's virtual, right, Valerie? So it'll be a Zoom class, and she'll talk about a lot of these things as well. And a
then
lot of our
we-
classes talk about those too. Go ahead, Valerie.
And we had another question said that how long can someone live with Alzheimer's? You want to answer that one, Ron?
I can. So average is 8 years after diagnosis. That's actually a fairly long time, but like with my mom was close to 20 years after diagnosis. And some people are 2 years. So it really depends on person to person. But average is 8 years on length after diagnosis. Amanda asked if I work with the Indian hospital. The Indian health system, and Valerie, you may not even know this. So IHS actually just signed a memorandum of understanding with the Alzheimer's Association to help work together. And so I actually just was in a seminar this week with Dr. Bruce Fink, who's with the IHS. And so we talked about how we might be able to work together. So I actually have asked for a meeting with him to talk. So we're beginning to, that's the way I would say, is we're beginning to have a relationship with IHS. And I hope that it is very beneficial. In a lot of ways, they do very different things than we do, because we really focus on the caregiver, on the family, and how we can support the family. And they're working from a medical perspective with the patient. And so I think it's something that we can definitely work with together. And I hope that we can help them, because one of the things Valerie and I have talked about is IHS isn't always good about making that diagnosis. And so we really like to help them be better about making the diagnosis and then making a recommendation that you work with us to help you kind of map out a plan and a strategy of how to go through this process. I call it finding the joy in the disease, because Alzheimer's dementia can get very frustrating. It can get very dark. It can get, as a caregiver, you can get very angry. You can get frustrated. You can get disappointed. You can get depressed. And what we're trying to do is help you find the joy, so you can still say, hey, you know what? It's still my mom, and I still love her, and we still have good memories with my mom. I do still have good memories of my mom, even after she was diagnosed. And so we can talk about those kind of things. I hope this is more proactive than the diabetes that seem to be growing than lowering. Amanda, we expect actually the number of people with dementia to increase significantly. We expect by the year 2050, so that's just a little more than 20 years away, 25 years away, that it will more than double in the number of people having the disease. Part of that is because baby boomers is the huge group of people that are now getting older. I'm at the end of the baby boomer group. I'm 57 years old, so I'm the end of it. And so we're, that older population is exploding as well. So we expect it to actually increase. And we don't necessarily understand exactly what causes the disease. And so we expect some other things that do cause the disease. We know that things like diabetes, you mentioned diabetes. Diabetes is a major risk factor for dementia. Does it run in the family? If a sister has it, it increases your risk. So because my mom had it, so as a direct blood relative, direct blood, it increases your risk. It does not mean that I'm going to get it because my mom had it, but it does mean I'm at a greater risk to get it than someone whose parents did not have it.
So is Alzheimer's dementia preventable, Ron?
No, although you can reduce your risk. And so you can't necessarily prevent it. Again, we don't necessarily know what causes it for sure, right? We can't tell you 100% sure this is what it is, right? We can't put our finger on it that way. But we do know that there are a lot of things that increase your risk, and having a family member increase your risk. Anything that affects, when your doctor has talked about, hey, healthy heart, healthy brain. Because about 25% of the blood your heart pumps goes to your brain. So anything that affects that blood flow is going to affect your brain. So things like diabetes, high blood pressure, those things will affect your brain as well. And so they will increase your risk. Smoking is going to increase your risk of getting dementia. So doing things like exercising, having a healthy weight, not smoking, eating right, those are all going to reduce your risk to have dementia. I have a brother. I actually generally live a fairly healthy life. Craig's going to laugh at that, but I try to do the healthy things. I try to exercise. I try to eat well. I try to do the things that we recommend and lower my risk as much as possible. I have a brother who basically is the exact opposite. He's like trying to increase his risk as much as possible, I think. The truth is he could still avoid the disease and I could still get it because we just don't know for sure what causes it. I'm reducing my risk as much as possible, and I hope that means I won't get it, but it doesn't mean for sure I'm not going to.
Thank you, Ron. I think this is a good point to say that this is why we support our caregivers, and this is why we have these programs for our caregivers, because we need you to be healthy, to take care of whoever you're caring for. Because I always say that, just as Ron said before, it's like, if you're not there, who's going to take over? So I just want to say right now, thank you everybody that is taking advantage of these sessions and learning about what's going on and educating yourself, and make sure you're empowering yourself so that you can do what you need. And I have a question here that says, what is the earliest age you can get dementia or Alzheimer's? One of their first cases was 12, wasn't it, Ron?
It was pretty early. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm actually working right now with a family that the wife was diagnosed at age 50. I read an article just a few weeks ago about someone who was diagnosed, I think, at age 24. That's rare, right? Most of the people diagnosed are age 65 or older, but it can happen in earlier ages as well.
I believe this is just knowledge is power. We have the 1-800 number there, and emails if you want any more. If we don't have any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and move forward. But thank you, for all the people that are asking questions. That's the only way you're going to find out, right? So that's why we encourage you to ask your questions to our live session right now and get those answers that you're looking for.
Yes, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you all for your great questions. I love when people bring up questions. I feel like that's my favorite part of these presentations, to like actually give people the opportunity to ask questions when they may not have otherwise have the chance to ask. So thank you, Alzheimer's Association, for joining us today. We appreciate it. Next up is PeopleWorks New Mexico.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy Anderson. I'm the executive director and founder of PeopleWorks. And thanks to Dana and your organization for organizing this. And I really enjoyed hearing Ron, Craig, Valerie talk about their organizations too. I think this is great that we're in the nonprofit world and trying to help caregivers. So I did put together a PowerPoint, so I'm going to try to share my screen here. All right, everyone seen this? Okay. I'm trying to, why isn't this working? All right, so I know most of you are aware of the problem here that caregivers face, but I thought I would talk a little bit about it, just because it's multidimensional what caregivers face. And so, I mean, not only do caregivers, and when I talk about caregivers, by the way, I'm going to talk about caregivers who are paid, and then we have family caregivers. So I think there's a representation of both here with the organization, right? Okay. And so there's just this management of the care recipients, the health issues. Usually there's more than one health issue to manage. There's appointments to be made. There's the medications and so forth. And there's managing dementia, which we've been talking a lot about here, which is huge. I always say that a caregiver, a person with dementia, has the hardest job in the world. I tell people that all the time. And you need to manage your own mental and physical health. And Valerie mentioned that as well, that we have to take care and be aware of how we are doing emotionally, how we are doing physically. Then there's the financial considerations, which it doesn't impact paid non-family caregivers, but the families are often impacted financially in going into this role. Sometimes people have to quit work. I've heard stories of people going into bankruptcy because of this. Some things, though, that are not addressed are the conflictual relationships that we have with our care recipient. We kind of brush this under the rug, or at least I'm not hearing much about it out there, on the internet and so forth. But let me tell you, as a therapist myself, this is stuff that rises to the top, that, and sometimes this conflict has started years and years ago, and how difficult it can be to take care of a parent, for instance, with whom you had significant problems. If the parent was abusive or had problems with alcohol or so forth, so you have these long-standing issues. Then you have the conflict with other family members. I see this so often. You have conflicts with your siblings. The siblings come in and there's major fights about what we should be doing. Again, long-standing issues come into play here. And there's history of mental health or substance misuse issues. This could be history for the caregiver, history for the care recipient. And I personally had this. I mean, my mother also had dementia, but she had mental health issues that were long-standing, and it was a very difficult situation when she contracted the dementia. So, but then we have legal, which, that can be mostly about power of attorney, who has the legal right to make the decisions on behalf of the person. It can be about wills. There could be other legal issues that crop up. And then we have grief and loss. And I was recently reading about the non-family caregivers, and how they get attached to their care recipients as well and experience the grief and the loss. And this is ongoing grief. As you see somebody deteriorate, you just can't help but feel that. And then, of course, people die, and then you've got, an acute grief process that happens with that. So what's the impact of caregiving? Well, I looked up some statistics. 40 to 70% of caregivers have signs of depression. Now, that means that they may have 3 or 4 signs of depression when, to get a quote diagnosis of depression or major depression, you need 5 characteristics, but 25% or 1/4 of caregivers do meet that criteria for major depression. 53% of caregivers report a decline in their health. And this has been a concern for a long time. We know that caregivers' health is sometimes more impacted than the care recipient's health. I mean, I have a client was a long-standing caregiver. Her husband not only had a mental illness that was diagnosed 30 years ago, but then he had physical health issues, and then he developed a dementia. I mean, it's like a triple whammy, so to speak. And she didn't have time to go to her appointments. And she was getting to the point she was going to need to put him in a nursing home because her health was declining so much. And so we know that caregivers are at risk. The next two ones is an increased risk of early death. And that's a very sobering thing, but we know that caregivers can sometimes die sooner than their care recipients. So it's huge. It's huge what's going on here. And then the 27% report financial hardship. I really think that's even higher than that, but that's the stat that was out there. Then the last three you all know about: the stress, the isolation, the fatigue. It's, you know, in the isolation, I keep hearing this, whether my clients are caregivers or not, this pandemic has so increased depression, and it's in part because of isolation. That's not the only thing, but and then when you're a caregiver, it's hard to, if you're in the home and it's hard to get out of the house, you know, your social life is the people that come to you. You know, you might have a few exchanges at the grocery store possibly, but that's about it. And so, I mean, this is just a really big factor. So how is PeopleWorks helping? Well, we are I like to say mental wellness agency instead of mental health agency, because I think wellness sort of is more broad reaching. And I really don't like the terms diagnoses, you know, I don't like labeling people. But I mean, we have to, because when we bill insurance, we have to do that. And it does help provide some understanding. But our primary service is the one-to-one counseling. And this is where, you know, we're bound by confidentiality, you know, in a legal sense and of course an ethical sense. We sometimes will bring in the spouse or the partner. Once in a while, we'll do the family sessions, but we can, whoever comes to us is the identified person we work with, but then sometimes we'll bring in, you know, the other like I've had like a daughter and a mother team recently, you know, do sessions together. So we iron out, you know, issues that are going on with the caregiving. We are still about 98% telehealth, I would say. So we do our sessions with video. We have about 4 different platforms we use, including, we'll use FaceTime, even Zoom, Doxy.me, and one of our therapists use Secure Video. We can do telephone sessions still. This is during the public health emergency, so I don't know when that's going to end, but that has provided capability for people who don't have internet service or that it's spotty internet service. And then our sessions are usually billable to insurance. Right now I've got an intern who's a master's level social worker. She's still in school. We've been able to provide sessions not billable to insurance, basically free of charge when she sees the person. So, and sometimes we get scholarship money to help people with their co-pays if that's a need. So that's our major service offering. We do have also on the right side here an online support group for family caregivers. This is for caregivers that are caring for a care recipient with any issue. So I would say probably 70% of the caregivers do take care of somebody with dementia, but there are some that stop in that are, you know, it's Parkinson's is sort of dementia, like you said, but it's a complexity of issues. So those are held by Zoom, usually 10:30 to 11:30 on Saturdays. And we have, and this is free of charge. We get grant money for this, and it's facilitated by Janice McGlone, who's a licensed social worker. And our next set of sessions are starting July 16. So if you know somebody who wants to join the group, this can be anywhere throughout the state of New Mexico. Those of you who might be in Arizona or surrounding areas, I won't tell if you join. So we're funded right now by Blue Cross Blue Shield. So any type of caregiver, we have sessions for. We have 3 of us that specialize in the older adults. Dr. Michaela Hammer, she's been doing the work for 30 years. Myself also 30 plus years. I'm not telling how much more. Janice McGlone is, she just got her upper level New Mexico license. So we're hoping to bring her on soon. We have to credential her with Medicare. All of the rest of our therapists, 3 of them, 3 extra therapists do have experience with older adults or caregiving. Here is a list of insurance companies we accept. It's not quite complete, but those are the major insurance companies I think that people might have. Okay, going to the next. So who's here in our caregiver group? We have caregivers from around the state, Las Cruces, Santa Fe, Espanola, Hobbs, Albuquerque. Those are the locations they're coming from. I'd say there's about 12 caregivers that are associated with the group, but of course they don't come to every single session. The nice part is you don't have to make a commitment. It's drop in whenever you feel like you need some support. And then I just added a quote by one of our caregivers that said she's been able to find the supportive group of people who understand the challenges of caregiving. She got involved with our group because of our Facebook postings. So it's helped her with resources she didn't know existed. And some of the caregivers, do call each other in between group too. So that's not a requirement and we don't prevent it either, but sometimes it's a support or friendship that develops beyond the group. So anyhow, so here, I don't have access to the chat at the moment, but for counseling, you can call or email us. And so here's the phone number. You can also, I get a lot of requests by email, which I kind of like because I can work on those in the evening if I need to. And get people hooked up. I have to tell you that we do have a wait list going. Seems like lately we've been able to get people in within about a month. It used to be that it was more like 3 months of a wait list, but I just want to prepare you for that, we have a lot of requests coming in and I would love to be able to help everyone within a week, but it's just not quite possible. It's hard with our staff, amount of staff. And then for the family caregiver support group, there'll be a website registration. So that you can just go to our website if you wish. peopleworksnm.org and then click on the groups and classes picture at the bottom of that page, and then it'll take you to a registration link if you want to just do it that way. So anyhow, so that's about it. I can stop the share here. Our therapists are at least master's level therapists, and we have a couple of PhD or PsyD So, yeah, so I'm willing to take any questions. Oh, thank you, Dana, for putting.
You mentioned that you only do with insureds. I'm so new to all of that type of talk. So does access count as that or no?
Access, oh, is that Arizona's system?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, we're licensed in New Mexico, so it would have to be an Arizona provider, somebody that's licensed, and then there's a licensure issue, and then there's a contracting. So you have to contract or credential with a particular insurance company. So yeah, you need to find the Arizona providers for those folks. Because that's the long-term care Medicaid system in Arizona, I believe. I used to live in Arizona, and so that's why I know about that one. But yeah, that's a good question.
So your services are only for New Mexico State then? We wouldn't be able to
People
participate.
that reside in New Mexico, yeah. Like I said, I'm okay if somebody wants to stop into a caregiver support group there. We're not needing to report to any entities or bill for, so, but yeah, for the counseling sessions, you'd have to find somebody licensed in Arizona. Good question.
So just to repeat, you said that the Saturday online support groups could be open to anyone because there's not specific, like you don't have a contract with insurance with that. Is that correct? So
Right, yeah. But we asked that one be for family caregivers. And yeah, any condition, just family caregivers and of adults, because yeah, parents with children are also caregivers, but yeah, no, it's the.
what about parents of children with disabilities?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm thinking maybe still adults, but that's a good question.
We do have some caregivers that we work with that they're parents of children with disabilities on like the MEVIA waiver.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they could go ahead and attend and see, if they can get the support they need. I mean, we may not be as well versed in resources for that population, but yeah, just to be honest, but but emotional support and something.
I was just curious, most of the population I work with, most of the audience, I believe here is usually most of them are family caregivers. The ones that are family caregivers are family caregivers of like seniors, like their parents or grandparents. We do have some caregivers that care for their siblings.
Oh, yeah. Wow, okay, sure. But yeah, I think anyone can attend who would like to, so. I should mention, we also, our intern is doing a mindfulness meditation group. And it's on our Facebook page. I believe it's Mondays. And it's just, you could stop in and meditate for 30 minutes if you just want to grab some peace of mind for a little bit. So she's really a neat person, our intern, and knows how to help people meditate very well.
And those ones are your free, like anybody can come, right?
Yes, anybody can come. Yeah.
And you can find the schedule on your webpage?
On the Facebook page, but yeah, we need to update our webpage, I think, with the newest, yeah. So I believe It's Monday, or it could be Tuesdays. Gosh, I'm sorry. The schedule switched because of the summertime, and so yeah.
So I guess to clarify it, so I'm a New Mexico resident. I want to come to your sessions and I'm on Medicaid. I would qualify?
I believe so. I don't know if you're talking like straight Medicaid or which all of us have that, or you sign up for managed care organizations, so you could have Blue Cross Blue Shield or Presbyterian, or not Optum. What's the third one that has a Medicaid program? But yeah, we take all of those insurances.
Okay.
And yeah, a lot of times there's no charge, then there's no copay. Once in a while, we will find that there are copays. So just to be aware of that.
I just added the PeopleWorks Facebook page to the chat for anyone that's interested in learning about the mindfulness groups.
Yeah, thank you. We do, as an aside too, we have a problem gambling program, and we provide counseling for gamblers, and we're doing a lot of prevention and education on that throughout the state as well. And then we are going to start a teen mental health project where we're going to, it's going to primarily focus on prevention and education in Sandoval County. So that's a United Way grant. So just to let you know, some other services that may not be related to your situation at all, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. So.
I heard you say power of attorney, and it made me think back to our first presenter, the Native American Disability Law Center. Do you guys help with power of attorneys as well, Valerie? Oh.
I had to unmute myself. No, currently don't. We normally would refer them out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I thought about that, and
Yeah, I saw your question. I didn't know how to respond.
oh,
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No problem.
Thank you, Cindy, so much for sharing all of PeopleWorks services. We're very thankful to have your organization here today. I'm going to open up the floor to any additional questions for any of our presenters today. PeopleWorks New Mexico, Alzheimer's Association, or Native American Disability Law Center for any additional questions. There were several folks that joined a little late, so we'd love to hear from some folks that maybe have some questions that maybe missed out on some of the information that was provided. Several folks joined after the Native American Disability Law Center presented. So if anyone has any questions that maybe you think that they might be able to help answer for you.
I know I just was hoping that Ron or Craig could give some ideas, or if they know of like apps about brain games or brain strength to try to keep your mental capacity, I guess, in good condition. I was really interested in that. If there was like a recommended, again, like app, or I know you put in there like reading and like solving problems, but I know one thing that I usually tell my people is if you're right-handed and you're dominant right-handed, start using your left hand, like especially brushing your teeth. So if you're used to using your right all the time because you're right-handed, when you use your left hand, your brain is gonna, like freak out, but you're still gonna do it. And then even like, tying your shoes, maybe you always do one side all the time. But that was just one trick that I know of. I just didn't know if you had any other things that could help our brain health.
Yeah, I think, Valerie, I mean, it's a great question. And the way I think of it is try not to have your brain in neutral as often, right? I know your brain's not a muscle, but almost think of it like it's a muscle and work it like you would a muscle. So you mentioned the tying shoes. I do that. I do not tie my shoes the same every morning. So I have to pay attention because tying your shoes right is time when I have my brain in neutral normally. So I actually take my brain out of neutral and say, okay, how did I tie my shoes yesterday? So I tied my left shoe first yesterday. I put my left shoe on, tied it, put my right shoe on, tied it yesterday. So today I'm going to put my right shoe on, then I'm going to put my left shoe on, then I'm going to tie my left shoe, and then I'm going to tie my right shoe, right? Whatever it is, right? There's actually 6 different combinations for tying your shoes. I actually know that because I do it on a regular basis and I just don't put my brain in neutral. You mentioned, do things if you're right-handed, do things with your left hand. The one thing I would say is, when we're talking about like games and those things, and I know Craig loves Wordle. He does Wordle every day. He can tell you how many times. Craig, how many times did it take you this morning?
3.
Okay,
Good day.
so he does Wordle. There's other things. What I try to think through is I'm a math guy. My bachelor's degree is in mathematics. So math games are actually really easy for me. So I actually don't do the math games because they don't use my brain in a different way. So I do the word games. I don't do Wordle. It's not one, but I do the word games. I do some of the other games on my phone, or when I'm doing in the paper. I do crosswords, because those challenge my brain in a way that's not natural for me. So it just makes me work a little harder, makes my brain sweat, right? If you think of your brain as a muscle. So that's what I would recommend. Know what's easy for you and then try to do the other things. I know for my mom, after my dad died, my mom spent many years watching Lifetime movies, just spending a lot of time watching Lifetime movies, which is basically the description of not using your brain. And so she spent a lot of time, and I feel like that really had an impact on her brain health and may have helped lead to her dementia.
I was going to say, is that why we see a lot of older people watching Jeopardy?
Well, it can help, right? I mean,
Yeah.
makes you think, right? And so it is those games, it doesn't have to be games on your phone. The other nice thing about doing games in person, whether that's, doing Scrabble or anything else, playing cards, is being social with other people is actually another way to work your brain.
Yes.
Because when we have a communication, when you and I talk, Valerie, right, we both have to think, you have to think about what in the world's Ron talking about right now. And then you think, okay, so how can I get Ron back on track? And you have to tell me about that, right? So we're both using our brains when we're having communication. So when you're playing a game with someone else, you're not only concentrating on the game, but you're also working on the communication with the person. So it really impacts the brain health.
Nice. I forgot that one. A really good one is try something new, right? Learn something new that you just don't even know anything about. I think that's one of the best.
Yeah, and there's 2 big ones, right, that actually have shown to have a significant impact. The first one is learn a new language.
Mm-hmm.
So Valerie working on teaching me Dana is important, right, for my brain. And so she teaches me a new phrase. I'm not very good at pronunciation, so I'm not going to try and pronounce anything, but I'm getting better at typing things to her. So that's important. And the other is learning a new instrument. So learning how to play a new musical instrument. Those 2 have actually shown a significant impact in reducing the risk. And so those are 2, but yeah, learning anything new, right? Going and doing those things. But if you think about learning a new language and learning a new instrument, you use your whole brain in those functions, right? And so they are important. Amanda asked, what if your elder has no interest in forcing them? Do you have to keep trying to figure out what they want to do? That's a hard question, Amanda, because, trying to get my mom to do something, my mom, I think I told you guys already, my mom had 6 boys. And so one of her boys trying to get her to do something was like near impossible. so that's a really hard thing to do, but finding something that does intrigue them, right? And being able to do that really helps, being able to find, hey, Mom, have you ever wanted to speak another language? And Dana put some free language stuff in there, so, hey, Mom, you always said you wanted to learn French, so I'm going to start speaking to you in French, parlez-vous français, right? Merci beaucoup, all of those things, right? There for a while, I was able to count to 10 in like 10 different languages. Craig, is something you didn't know about me till today.
Did not.
Yeah, exactly. So, un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, sept, huit, neuf, dix. I'm probably not pronouncing it very well, but I could count to 10 in French because I decided that was important to me at one point. And so doing those kind of things, but make it fun, Amanda. That's probably the best thing. What's fun for them, right? Is it fun to count to 10? Okay, well, Mom, we're going to learn to count to 10 in 10 different languages, right? Or whatever it is, right? So think about what could be fun, what do they enjoy, and then trying to find a way to do it in that.
I will say I've had that issue with my family. My biggest thing is you just have to keep trying, and sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. I know that I really try to do different types of things that's not normal for Navajo, right? And maybe something that my mom never did before. And I took her to a pottery class, and I kid you not, she fell asleep in class with the clay in her hand, and that thing was spinning, and she fell asleep. I was really upset. I was really upset, and I couldn't believe it. However, we tried it, and I found out that is not Mom's favorite. So I said, okay, never again. Let's try something different. And you're your best person's, you know them the best. So you kind of just have to put it out there, and again, make it fun. I was upset, but now I just think about it and I laugh about it, and I tell people, have you ever played that game too? Have you ever had your mom fall asleep in pottery class?
I don't know about you. I have this picture of Valerie having this vase with a face picture, imprinted in the vase from her mom.
Right.
Another idea is to actually say, hey, Mom, I want to learn French. Can you help me? Will you be my French learning buddy? So I am going to learn it, but can you tell me, does it sound right when I'm pronouncing the words? Can you help me? So kind of do it together and make it sound like it's actually about you, even though it's about her, right? So, hey, I'm going to try and learn guitar, Mom, but I really need your help because playing your guitar all by yourself doesn't sound right. So would you be willing to also do this with me? And so make it about you and see if you can kind of drag them. So that's another idea. Again, nothing's always going to work, but find the things that do work and kind of do that. I've told the story over and over that my mom loved chocolate covered peanuts and almonds. And so I hate to say it, it was almost like, training your dog, but in some ways, right? Hey, Mom, if you'll do this, I'll get you a bag of chocolate covered almonds, right? If you'll do this with me. And she would say yes, right? Because she really loved those. So, hey, it's a little bit like taking the little kids and saying, if you're really good in the grocery store, I'll take you to ice cream afterwards. Sometimes you can do that with your parents. I know it's, again, sometimes it sounds bad, but it helps, right? What are you trying to do? What you're trying to do is get them to do that. So whatever works, sometimes you just have to do.
And I think maybe coming to support group and for sharing your frustration.
Yeah.
And if you got something to work for you, I know people in the group definitely would appreciate it, because we're all going through the same thing at one point or another. If it's at the beginning, if it's in the middle, if it's at the end, we love to help each other in these type of stories because it's helpful. And I feel like you can laugh about it with those type of people because they can understand. They know what you're going through. So
yeah, and you learn so much from them. I've learned so much from our volunteers from the support group and from people telling us stories about, hey, this is what worked, or this is the issue I was having, and this is what I tried and it worked. And so, yeah, support groups are a great resource for those kind of things.
All right, well, we're kind of ending the near end of this resource event. Thank you all. Thank you, PeopleWorks, Native American Disability Law Centers, and Alzheimer's Association for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We hope that everyone that joined us today has learned a lot of information. We hope that we brought to you some organizations and some resources that you may not have already heard about.
Yes.
We frequently hold presentations and classes to kind of spread information and awareness. So we hope that you learned some great information from today that maybe you didn't necessarily know previously. For those that are normally attend our classes, you're probably aware that we do provide certificates for most of our actual trainings and presentations. So you will get a certificate for this session. However, I do send them all at the end as a group, so they won't go out until the beginning of next month. So all of the certificates for June will go out in the beginning of July. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Valerie, for those that may have been invited to this class today by Valerie Sosi. So thank you all. I will send out a recording out. So if you know anyone that may be registered and didn't get to make it to today's session, I will email out the recording tomorrow to those folks who missed out. But thank you all for coming, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
In
Thank
the
you.
spirit of learning new languages,
Yes.
I say adios, au revoir, bonnet,
Good night.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.